Oh, and Trapezoid, I want to show you how I made a bunch of pretty cheap cloverleaf antennas for Tips and Tricks Tuesday. Sorry for the noise. I have my 3D printer going on underneath my desk. But I already had a bunch of RG402 coaxial cable, as well as SMA connectors, just because the SMA connectors I had because I always break antennas in one, was repairing them myself. And then I stumbled on these things on Amazon, which are intended to be, you replace the uh, tiny whoop antennas, or if you have any type of those micros, it's basically to replace that. And 4 of these was $8 shipped from Amazon, so that's probably like the most expensive place you can get them. So I was like, hey, I might as well try for $8. I can possibly make 4 antennas and see what see how it works. So they originally come with a little crappy lead, and everybody always complained, like the comments were complaining about the quality control. And that's the case, but it's typically with the actual wire. It's not necessarily with the cloverleaf itself. So this one I already took off, and you'll see what I'll do is we'll end up taking this. We put a little heat shrink around, and this goes up through there. It's got to be a little bit longer, and then it gets soldered just like that. And then we put an end on the end, and then we got an antenna. A little bit of epoxy, and there we go. So let's start this off. I bought a 4-pack, and then they worked out pretty well. Did some testing in an area that I was pretty familiar with already, and it's kind of hard to get into, but there we go. Yeah, I don't even think that bottom piece was even soldered on correctly, but it doesn't matter because this is exactly what we want. Just like the other one, we want it completely clean, nothing in there. And then the next step is to cut this, but this isn't long enough, and it's not straight, so I'm gonna straighten it out. You could use pliers or whatever. I'm just using the back of these scissors, so you want that to be as straight as possible. And then we need it to be actually a little bit longer, so I'm gonna cut this. Simple. And then you want to make sure that there's nothing connecting in there, so there isn't, you can see, but sometimes I like to take a file and just file it down to make sure that there's no the ground isn't getting connected, shorted out basically. And then we need a little piece of heat shrink, which will do that. And then I don't have my lighter over here, so I'm just going to use this for right now. Push it down. So I'm going to use this to hold this straight up ish. And then this is going to just line up, and then the hole is soldered. This hole on here is already soldered through. There's all solder in there. Actually, I'm going to tin this really quick to make everything slide on nice. But as soon as I slide this on, I'm going to heat it from the top. It should fall straight down. There we go. So you wanna little piece of solder fell in there, so that's pretty clean. You want to try to keep this bottom plate as close to that as possible. You want to try to be straight as possible. I tend to heat up one side and then fill it in from the other side. Yeah, and the gap might be a little too much. Oh, there we go, we got it. You don't really need that much, you just need to make sure that both pieces of metal get hot so that it actually joins get together correctly. So that's pretty nice. So this looks just like that. We're going to do similar to the what we did to the top, where we're going to cut off a hunk, but really it actually doesn't need to be that much, because all we need is a little piece of the tip to be exposed. There's one of these to slide right over the top. Let it heat up both the tip and the core of the wire. So yeah, that's on there. Pretty good. You can straighten it out. And then you might have an issue sliding it in, so what you might need to do is just, again, file it down. I like doing it anyways to keep everything nice and clean. And then that's not going anywhere. There's no pieces of nothing connecting. At this point, if you want to put heat shrink on, I like how they look with the gold, or the, I don't even know what they are, copper and the silver and copper colors tones. I like keeping it that way, but you could put a heat shrink if you want now, and then basically you're sliding it through there so it don't go any farther. It's basically just hitting my finger, the tip. You probably can actually even see it on my finger. Just hitting my tip. And then once everything starts getting to temperature, all you need is a tiny little bit, and it'll slide down into the crack as long as the SMA connector is hot, which it is, trust me. Okay, now let me add some structural integrity. So all you need is some 5-minute resin, or 5-minute epoxy. Super simple. Little dot there of the resin. Equal amounts of the hardener. And use a toothpick because they're cheap and disposable. And you want to try to avoid getting it on the leaves as much as possible, but you want to fill up the core so that when you crash it and the wires bend, you can bend them right back, but the core stays solid and nothing breaks off. So once you get enough, I got it on the leaf a little bit, which isn't huge issue. But I'll clean it off anyways. I'm kind of need to just sit there and spin it for a little while the epoxy hardens. But if you use a pretty quick setting epoxy, it gets pretty hard relatively quick. Once you get it to a point where it's not moving too crazy, you can stand it up and it'll create a little bubble and bulge on the bottom. This is probably the most expensive way to do it cheaply, but using Amazon as the source. But when I did the prices, it went down. It was like $3.60, I think, per antenna, which is not bad at all. And I did some range tests with just these cloverleafs on my diversity, so I didn't even use a patch. I just used these two of the same cloverleafs and the cloverleaf on my drone at 200 milliwatt, and flew in the same parks that I've normally flew in. I don't know, it gave me a theory about using the exact same antennas, because to me I was surprised at how well the quality was without using a patch. If you liked what you saw, like it, subscribe, share, whatever. Don't drink balls. It's good. Yeah, have a good day.